I finally tell her that I'm sick of this and I'm done, the kids and I are leaving. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Ara Zone Stories. Today we have a story where this woman told her husband she was going to spend time with her girlfriend, but she spent the time with her partner. Husband caught her with the evidence when she was lying. Let's see how all of this happened. I am finally done holding out hope that my wife will be anything more than a cheater. We've been together since 2014, but married since 2017, which is when the cheating started. She said that it just started out as trying to make friends, since all of her friendships have kind of fizzled out, but none of the people she talked to just stayed friends for long. Most of them were only texting partners, very little emotion and no meetups. But a few got feelings mixed in, and one in particular turned into at least a meetup that ended in at least mutual petting and oral intimacy. This was all within 1 year to 1.5 years of our wedding date, by the way. I, of course, caught her and was rightfully angry. However, I do take some small blame, as I was being a very new and very overwhelmed stay-at-home dad, and I wasn't paying her the proper amount of attention, and was easily agitated, which affected both our life and communication. Things were okay for a bit, but she started to talk to more guys online, which I didn't know about for a while, and ended up causing another fight when I did find out. During this, she admits that she thinks she might be polyamorous. I suggest counseling, both individual counseling and marriage counseling, and she agrees. This never happens, and of course is accompanied by various excuses as to why not. We continue to try to reconcile, and everything goes well for a bit until her depression starts getting the better of her, which is when she starts to seek out extra validation and attention. And the cycle continues until recently. Now, I have no hard evidence of any physical intimacy between her and these chat partners, other than the first instance, and of course, this most recent occurrence. So, Saturday our children and I went over to my parents for the day, so I could help my father work on the house. While we were all gone, my wayward wife decides she would be free and clear to get into some mischief. She comes home after work, 14-hour overnight shift, takes a nap, and then gets herself decently dolled up. Nothing crazy, just a shower, nicer clothes, light makeup, and a cute little thong. She then grabs a few of our toys and proceeds over to her friend's house. Now she says that all that happened was he used a vibrator and paddle on her, which isn't even all the toys she took, but I don't buy a bit of that. Either way, plans were made previously to go out to eat after the work on the house was finished, and I was supposed to call her when we were getting close to being done. So I did, no answer. I wait a bit and call again, no answer, so I text. She replies 15 minutes later saying, "Okay, I'll head that in a bit, kind of annoying, but no big deal." 30 to 45 minutes later, my whole family is sitting around waiting on her, and she finally sends me a text saying that she's on her way. When she finally arrives, her excuse is that her and her friends, this was her cover story, a female friend from school, and her husband that she started hanging out with recently, had just started playing a round of Uno when I texted her, and they wanted to finish it. I, sadly, sort of believed this horrible line of excuse until the next day when we meet up with said friend, and the friend makes a comment on my wayward wife's new eyeglasses. So now I'm suspicious and start snooping where I can once she leaves for a bit. I find several pregnancy tests, some open, and a used one. I have a vasectomy. I also notice a few of our toys missing, and search our bedroom top to bottom in search of them to no avail. When she gets home, I look in the car and find the toys in a food delivery bag with an address nowhere near where she said her school friend lives. I immediately confront her, and she of course tries to deny it even with evidence being waved in her face. I finally tell her that I'm sick of this, and I'm done, the kids and I are leaving, and she is now free to do bedroom activity with every single guy in the neighborhood if she feels so inclined. Predictably, I get the all too common, "I'm so sorry, I never meant to hurt you," or "Would you be willing to stay if I try therapy?" And my personal favorite, "I don't know why I am this way, I just can't help it." But I finally said enough is enough, and I'm packing up my kids and my stuff and leaving. Unfortunately, at least legally, I have to stay married to her for another 6 months. In my state, you have to be separated for 6 months before you can divorce, even with evidence of cheating. But on the bright side, she doesn't currently seem to want to fight over anything like the kids or our few joint possessions. For those that think I won't end up leaving, car is packed, and I'm just waiting for the kids to finish their nap. For those worried about marital assets, we are currently renting and her name is the main one on the lease. And the only other real asset we have is the car that I'm going to drive away in, so not much worry there. As good as it can be so far. I'm at my parents'. She currently has the kids for some mom time. We've talked a bit and been cordial. I've picked up some more of the essentials for me and boys from her house with no big fuss. She seems sad, but I guess I made it clear enough that I'm done, because she's made no attempts to talk me into coming back and seems pretty resigned to the facts of the situation. He should get tested for STDs and also make a DNA test of the kids to figure out if they are his. He must tell his friends and family about his upcoming separation and divorce, and also tell them why this happens before she spins the story around. Before he move out, he should get a lawyer and get their advice. Then do everything exactly as the lawyer tells him to do. He must cut her out of his life as much as possible. Gray rock her and took good care of himself. Is that what you want? I mean, reread your post. This isn't wrong place at wrong time or drank too much cheating. She was working hard for her affairs and doing it at the expense of you and your kids multiple times. Part of the thrill was showing up late for dinner with your parents, knowing what she did, and I hate to say it, but she's in one of those careers that has more cheating than most. The deck is really stacked against this turning out okay. You don't have to decide right away, but make it clear to her that you are not offering her reconciliation right now. Tell her she has a ton of work to do before you will even consider that. It's good that she is getting into individual counseling. Make sure it is with a counselor who specializes in infidelity. Her issue is likely too much for some counselors. And get yourself into individual counseling so you can work through this and decide what you really want. Listen, she is a serial cheater who appears to have a compulsion that she can't or doesn't want to control. This is a major uphill battle with a very small chance of a successful, long-term reconciliation. Good luck. I had been with this girl for 4 years. We were incredibly close, the both of us. We did almost everything together. It really felt like a truly incredible loving relationship that would last forever. I'm assuming you all hear that a lot though. Now obviously I regret it, but I gave everything I could to her. I used to work this terrible job that I hated while I was in school to pay for plane tickets to see her. We were long distance for the first year and a half of our relationship, although we'd stay with each other during winter and summer breaks from school. I regret doing it especially now because I hindered my own development as a person in school and life goals just to be there for her, to help her, to build her up. But a couple months ago, I found out the first time. She said she was going to see someone from work whom I knew and trusted, and she'd be back by evening. What she didn't tell me was she went there with a friend she met from work. It was already late evening, and I was wondering where she was, so I checked my Snap map and found she was at some random house. I called her. She picked up almost immediately and was clearly upset that I had called. I asked what she was doing. She said that she was just resting at a friend's house for a bit, as the person she visited from work lived far away. I didn't believe her and I was upset, so I persisted. Why would you be alone at some random guy's house, whom I've never met before? She swore to me and said it was nothing. She cried, she argued and even blamed me for being too much in her business. I let off, but afterwards she became suspiciously much more clingy. A couple days later, I was suspicious. I peeked at her while she was on her phone and saw she was texting somebody. I told her if it was that guy. She said yes. At that point, I was angry and I demanded I see the texts. She argued and screamed and told me I was out of line, that I'm invading her privacy. Eventually, she caved and admitted that she slept with him that night. She showed me her phone, and nothing could compare to the amount of pain I felt reading those texts. The guy was very clearly hitting on her, even boasting about how good a lay she was, and how he probably got her close to climax. This was the girl I gave my life for he was talking about. I guess she loved the attention. I was destroyed and so upset. I yelled at her, everything in the book. She was crying, pleading and begging for me to forgive her. She told me she actually hated the guy. She told me that the bedroom activity wasn't actually good. She told me she learned that she actually likes me more, and she was just curious or experimenting. I stopped talking to her for almost a week. I told family and friends. They were helpful, but they didn't tell me I should cut her off because they knew how close we were and they knew I'd go back to her. I did go back to her. She immediately told me everything in the book to win my heart back. She said we were made for each other. She said God gave me the strength to forgive her and that He wants us to be together. Nearly every day she wouldn't waste any opportunity to tell me how great I was and how I was perfect for her. She even planned a week-long romantic trip together just for me and her to show how much she cared. This will come up again later. I told her she had to get rid of the guy, and she blocked his number in front of me and told me she confronted him and told him he had to get out of her life. Problem was, they worked together and they were in the same friend group. And as I would learn, although not specifically, they could contact each other through other ways. She didn't do enough to get rid of him, just enough to hide it from me. Almost a month passed by, and one day she seemed to start cracking. She talked to me privately and told me that she's been having selfish thoughts. She never told me what. The next day, when I was feeling bad and tried to turn to her for comfort, she seemed to snap. She told me she couldn't do it anymore, that she was a terrible person, and that she would rather die than face the consequences of her actions. In my heart I knew it was over, but I stupidly, desperately wanted to keep the high of our relationship alive, so I comforted her and told her she could push through, as at the time, I believed she did get rid of him, and was actually trying to move forward with this relationship. The day after that, she told me she was going out to dinner with friends, and that in order for her to cool down and have a good time, that I wouldn't be allowed to text her at all during her outing. She made sure to mention all the friends she was going with, all whom I trusted. She promised it was just dinner. In my head, I thought this might be good for me, because if I could power through the fear of her lying to me that day, I could grow my trust in her. Problem was, she was lying again. She told me she would text me when she left after work. She didn't, and that's when I got worried. She turned Snap Map off, so I checked our Life 360. She was heading for his house again. My heart bursted immediately, and I called her. I asked her what she was doing. She was again clearly upset that I called her. She told me that she couldn't get rid of him completely because he was in her friend group, and that they were just meeting at his house before they went out. I called nonsense, and she retreated to blaming me again, telling me all my flaws, saying things like maybe she should dump me, that I'm just not compatible with her, that I'm the problem. She said she stopped somewhere once I called. I drove to her location, and lo and behold, the side piece was in the car with her. Once I pulled up, they both got out of the car and caressed each other and made sure I saw it. I was destroyed. I blocked her on everything. I never spoke to her again after that. She tried to stay in contact with me through my friend, who she messaged on Instagram. She kept telling him that she still loved and cared about me, that she wants him not to block her, so she can make sure I'm okay. She said she wanted me to move on. I requested that we have a last talk since we never got a chance, and she rebuffed every time, saying it's too fresh, and that I need more time to think. My friend finally blocked her recently. In my head, I was going through all the different scenarios trying to manifest a reality where she did love me, that she was just confused and she just needed time apart. I was in massive amounts of emotional pain, thinking about everything for days on end. I couldn't sleep. I could even sleep in my own bed, because I'd be reminded of her there next to me. I lost weight because I couldn't eat. I stopped doing any of my hobbies, because nothing made me happy anymore. Eventually, recently, I was recommended her new side piece's Instagram. And you remember that romantic vacation we planned together? Well, she took her side piece with her on it instead of me. I was unimaginably furious. At that point, I knew everything I needed to know, and I didn't want to talk to her anymore. I didn't want to know why, because now I know why. She's a horrible, horrible person. She did it because she's selfish, and she never even thought or cared about how I would feel. I'm just left here shattered, and she's off doing whatever with her new piece. It's so unfair. It's infuriating. I never did anything to deserve this treatment. I never did any wrong to her, unless if she thinks me finding out she's a cheater is doing her wrong. I don't understand why I have to be treated like that, and why I deserve to feel this way. She should be the one suffering. It's so painful, so unimaginably painful. 4 years of my life just feel like a complete waste. Like I was played for 4 years. Edit. She was never the type of girl that got a lot of attention from men. While she was growing up, she never had to experience much guys hitting on her and trying to insert themselves into her life. She never had experienced building walls and boundaries to keep predatory men out, so she loved the attention, and also didn't think much of it. While we were together, I helped her build up her self-esteem, her self-confidence. I made her feel more confident in the way she looked. But I guess the attention from me wasn't enough for her, and when she got attention from other men she became attached. Because she liked the feeling of being chased, as it wasn't something she experienced often. I think that's one of the reasons why she cheated in the first place. Honestly, she probably loved the feeling of being chased by two men, although that's just a guess. On the flip side, like I've said in another comment, she never had to experience competition over me. There weren't a lot of women in my life while I was with her, so it never crossed her mind if I would ever cheat. I guess I was safe, a home base. It made her feel safe to experiment, I guess, test the waters without my notice. She also didn't give much back. I gave a lot to her, emotional support, gifts, I planned dates, I initiated always. She did give back, don't get me wrong, but it was definitely one-sided. I think she would even agree with that. For the longest time it was me who expressed love first, initiated, and would hope for a response from her. Few times would it be her expressing love and desire first. I never really realized how much I had to give to keep her. I like the high, I guess. It is not a waste. He had a relationship and he learned life skills. The truth of the matter that they were both young when he got together, and the relationship was not going to last. She has moved on, but she was immature about the way she did it. There are plenty of people he can connect with, not just this one. Go and meet them and have fun.